Do you have a survival garden growing? Should you have a survival garden growing? Do you have food that you put away in storage? Would you like to make that food last a lot longer? I don't mean be able to store it for 25 years instead of 10 years. I mean when you have to start using it, be able to have a year supply last for 2 years or more. If you answered yes to that last question, then stick around. We're going to investigate how to make that happen. So hello, welcome to the Chef Prepper channel and the Chef Prepper project, where our goal is to motivate and help the world to get prepared for the things that are coming, one household at a time. So before we answer these questions, let's answer that one big question. What the heck is a survival garden? Well, I thought you'd never ask, but I'm glad you did. Here is a survival garden. Corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, didn't you? A survival garden, it's a garden, nothing more. But it's a garden that you will use and depend upon when the time comes to help you survive. All right, so here is our whiteboard. We've used this before a couple times. Hopefully this time it won't fall over. All right, so let's set the stage for what we're getting ready to do. Throughout our videos, we're trying to use a sample or example family of 4 members. And again, this time it's our family of 4. So what we're talking about, our family of 4 has a year supply of food put in storage. And so to finish setting the stage, so to speak, this is the SHTF event that brings about the end of the world as we know it. Happens sometime in July 2021. This is just an example. I'm not a prophet. I'm not predicting this in any shape, form, or fashion. I don't think that this event's going to happen that soon. I could be wrong, but that's not the point. The point is how we're going to make a year's supply of food last a lot longer. In our example today, the big event happens in July-ish, but August 1st begins the aftermath period, in which you can't go anywhere. You can't go to Walmart, Kroger, or wherever and get more food, or McDonald's or anywhere else. And for sake of example, again, the aftermath of this event is going to go until August 1st of 2024, 3 years. And then after 3 years, order is kind of established, and then we get to the world as we will come to know it. From this to this. During this time, in my opinion, in my thinking, the government isn't going to shut down. We won't go governmentless. They will still exist. The government's ability to enforce its authority, as it does now, may diminish, and it may be sporadic here and there, but the government's going to continue on, in my thinking. You may not agree with me, and that's okay. And if you don't, comment below. Let us know. Let us hear from you. Let us understand your thinking on that. That'd be great. All right. So our family of 4 has a year supply of food. So that will get them from August 1st of this year to August 1st of 2022. So when they get to August 1st of 2022, then what? Well, they have options. Option 1, and these are in no particular order, is a slow starvation. That's not a good choice in my thinking. All right. Option 2 would be to eat your roosters. Well, option 2 might be hunt fish, and don't forget the roosters, and forage. All right, so let's talk about that for a moment. You might be able to do the hunting, fishing, and foraging, and they weren't crowing before I started this, but you might be able to do the hunting, fishing, and foraging, and maybe through all of that, because we're talking a year's time now, you might be able to add, say, 3 months of calories through these methods. But consider, if you go out hunting at this time, you got to be able to preserve the meat, right? Or else it's not going to last. Same with the fishing, and depending upon where you get your fish from, you might be able to do it on a daily basis. With foraging, it's hard to do calorie positive foraging, meaning you spend a lot of time, you don't get a whole lot of food or calories, and you're going to spend a lot of calories getting those calories. I'm not saying you shouldn't learn to forage and that you can't forage beneficially. I'm just saying it's going to be difficult. So is this really a viable option to extend the lifetime or the 1 year supply of food? Well, again, you got to be able to preserve it, and we're talking in a time when you don't have the grid or any modern conveniences for the most part. Some folks might still have some, but most of us won't. If you forage, you need to already know foraging. It's going to be hard to get more calories than what you expend getting them. One of the bigger problems that I see with this option is if you're out doing these things, then you're not where your family is, so you can't be observing, providing security if that would be necessary. You can't do this and do those things too. And even if security isn't necessary at all the times, there's going to be a lot of other things that you need to do. So, in my thinking, foraging is going to be basically for plants, right? I prefer to grow mine. I don't have to go forage for them. That's my survival garden. Hunting and fishing, I prefer to have livestock. I don't have to go spend the time hunting and fishing. But that's just me. What do you think about that? I would like to hear from you, because I know this is a big debate in the prepping community. Should you depend upon hunting, or should you grow livestock? There's nothing wrong with doing both, of course, if you have enough people, if you're part of something bigger than just your household. Okay, but that's an option. So, if that is an option where you're at, some of you live in places where that's not an option to begin with. But for example, if it is, so now, and let's say we can get to 3 months, and I don't know if you could get 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know, because it's very dependent upon how well you can do those things, how well you can preserve them, the area you live in, what's the hunting, fishing pressure going to be like at that time, all kinds of things to consider. But for sake of example, they've added 3 months. So now, instead of running out of food in August, they got August, September, October. That moves them to October 2021. Okay, so option 3, I talked about this just a little bit already, but option 3 would be to have a survival garden. And if in our sample or example, they would already have their survival garden growing right now, and so perhaps they weren't trying to grow a whole year's supply of food. They were just training and practicing, learning how to grow food, how to save seeds, how to irrigate if there is no public water, and so forth. So because they had their survival garden going, they were able to add 3 months That's a frog, I think, that you hear, if you heard that. They were able to add 3 months, or three more months. So now, instead of October, they got October, November, December. That puts them through December 2022, not 2021 actually. So now, the 12-month supply of food, they've stretched it out to 18 months. And because they were already practicing growing their food, next year, remember they've got through the end of December 2022. So this is August 21, August 22. So during this time, which will be next spring, next summer for us now, I'm doing this in July of 2021, they were able to put a garden out, or would be able to put a bigger garden out, because now they know how to do everything because they've been doing it. And maybe with this garden, their 2022 garden, they double their production with an extreme amount more work, but they were able to get a 6-month supply of food or calories from their garden, which again would be very hard to do. Not impossible, but hard to do. So now they've added 6 months here, so that takes them through, and I may be off a month, I might have lost track here, but December, January, February, March, April, May. That puts them through May 1st, 2023. So now they've added 3 months hunting and fishing, 3 months from what at this point would have been last year's garden, but to us right now. Next year they grew 6 months, and if hunting and fishing is a viable option for them, during the next year they could get potentially another 3 months from the hunting and fishing, but you get the May, June, July, get them through July 1st, 2023. So now through the hunting, fishing, their gardening, they got 6 months with hunting and fishing over basically a 2-month or a 2-year period. They've added 9 months of food over roughly a 2-year period. So 6 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. Remember, this is all theory, just an example. So that's 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months. So they've added 15 months of calories to their year. So that got taken them up to 27 months. So now their 1-year supply of food, calories, they've extended out to 27 months, a little over 2 years. That won't get them all the way through what, for our example, is a 3-year time period. But after the 2 years from the big event, more than likely, in my thinking, there will be some bartering. You'll be able to buy, trade, and sell somewhat. There'll be bartering going on. So there's the potential at that point then to barter or whatever to get a few more calories of food from someone, the farm down the road, or wherever it might be. So, and we could take this on further. 27 months from here would get them what? So you can see how you could take this, stretch it out, but you have to decide if the hunting, fishing, and foraging is a viable option for you. Maybe one of them is, the other two are not, any combination. I don't know. Only you know. I don't. You do know, right? Yes, you know, because you've tried. You know, right? Okay. The gardening aspect. Maybe you live in a place where you can't garden. If so, maybe you can do some container gardening. Maybe you can add 3 months and 6 months, but maybe you can add a month or 2 months. I don't know. Maybe you can do it on the back porch, on the patio. Maybe if you're in suburbia, you can put some raised garden beds like I'm going to show you in our update to our survival garden. Maybe you can add a few months to that time. These are things you need to figure out. But this scenario, if you're into the world of preparedness, this kind of thing has to have crossed your mind. You know, everyone talks about how much food to put into storage. And if you're still working on that, by the way, we do have a video about how much food, how much is enough. And that doesn't mean you stop storing once you reach a certain level. The video is about how many calories to store per year per person. I'll put a link to that below. I'll also, in the description, I'll also put a couple of links to websites that's kind of got a calculator for such things, even though they might not agree with the conclusion we reached in our video, but they will still be very helpful for you. So check those out if you're working on how many calories per person. And those websites will also break down somewhat, this much in grains, this much in dairy, etc., etc. They're helpful. All right, so you see a way to extend your storage food, the lifetime of your storage food, which will also extend your lifetime in such an event. We didn't go through every possible option, but of course, if you are in a position where you can't do the hunting, fishing, foraging, and you can't do the gardening, what's another option for you? Well, before this happens, another option for all of us, wherever we are, that's supposed to be a for, is what? Add more food. This hasn't actually happened. We can still do this. So when you get a chance, sit down with a sheet of paper. Draw this out for yourself. How many people you have, how many people you expect, or you're expecting to bug out to here or there or wherever. Draw this out. Figure out how much food you got now. How long will that last? What do you anticipate as an aftermath period before we get back to the world as we come to know it? I don't know how long that'll be. How long do you think it will be? That would be interesting to put down in the comments. Let the rest of us see what the consensus is, if there is a consensus. And if not, that's okay. So yeah, do something like this for yourself. Figure out how you can extend what you have to make it last longer. Is there a way to do this, to extend it? Is there a way to make your storage food last twice as long other than these things? Some of you may have that figured out. Again, if you do, the rest of us would like to know. Maybe we can do it. I'm sure there's other things than what I've mentioned in this quick video. Okay, so that brings us to what we did here, or what we're doing here. We haven't, obviously, we're not there in that period yet, but we here, my wife and I and our family and any and all associated with us, I'm not saying it's bad to hunt, you shouldn't hunt. We have decided that having livestock is a better option for us than this, for the reasons I talked about. Fishing, that is an option for us because you can't see it in the video, but maybe I'll show it to you in a couple of 3 videos coming up sometime. But one of our property lines is a river. It has fish in it. So I don't have to go very far from home to get fish. So that's a very good option for us and one that we're going to take advantage of. Foraging, we know where some things are, trees are, walnut trees, nut trees, and so forth, that are very nearby that we can go gather in the fall. Walnuts, chestnuts, and those things. That will be our form of foraging. We're not going to depend upon going out and finding all kinds of things to eat for the day. Our foraging, for the most part, is going to be what you're going to see in the rest of the video when I update you on our survival garden. We choose to forage in our garden, hunt in our pastures, and fish in the river. But that's just us. It's not a one-size-fits-all. That suits us in our circumstances. You got to figure that out in your circumstances. And right now, you got time to figure this out. So please do that, because you don't want to get caught up where your option when the food runs out is slow starvation, because that might have a tendency to make you start doing things that you shouldn't do, and other people, you know, that's just not a good place to be in. I don't want those of you who watch our channel to be in that position, and I'm sure you don't want it either, and you don't want other people to be in that position. So along those lines, if you got anything from this video, and I hope you did, because I am trying, and I want to earn you as a viewer and as a subscriber. I am on YouTube, so you know that's what makes our channels work as YouTubers. If you found this useful, then share it with somebody that you've been trying to bring into the prepping world. Say, hey, did you see that guy? He said this, he said that. You ought to look at that. See what you think. Tell me what you think. Is he way out there, or does he make sense? Share it with people. It'll help you to help them. It'll help them. So we all benefit. All right. So this is how you make your food storage last twice as long. Can you work it out to make it 3 times as long in your situation? Maybe. You won't be able to do this, figure all this out, if you wait till this time happens. Then whatever you got is what you got. You're a prepper, or you may be a prepper. Preppers prepare. Until this time happens, you're a prepper. When you get here and go into this area, you're no longer a prepper. You're a survivor. Right? Right. All right. And when it comes to adding more food, we do have a video about the best place to add to your storage foods when it comes to the dollar store type places to go. I will put a link to that video below. You can watch it, apply it, and do number 4, add more food. All right. For the rest of the video, for those of you who are interested, I'm going to show you our survival garden, which, as we've already said, a survival garden is a garden. I'm going to show you and update you on our garden this year, and if that's not your thing, that doesn't float your boat, then you know, move on to the next video. Those videos that have links in the description, go to those. But if you're interested in seeing what we're doing and how it's going, and I will tell you now, there's been some successes, there's been some failures. And along those lines, I've been growing a garden for over 25 years, I do believe. This year, I got quite a few failures in my garden, but I'm still learning. So can you. So, if you're taking off at this point without seeing the update, we'll see you next time around. If you're sticking with us to see the update, let's go do that. And so here is one garden area. First row there is a row of different kinds of winter squash, beans, sweet potatoes. At the bigger corn, actually the corn, is hickory king. It is a type of corn that you grind into cornmeal for cornbread and such things. The smaller corn looking things or stuff is sorghum, grain sorghum. This sorghum was planted from seeds that we grew last year. So was the hickory king corn. That is all from seed that we saved from last year's crop. This is our forest garden. I'll take you. This is our first and only. So after an afternoon of work, that's basil. I'm not sure what that is. That's one of Mrs. Prepper's herbs. The large leafy things are comfrey. That is a hazelnut bush. Got some Japanese beetles on it. Hazelnuts look to be doing pretty well so far. This is the first year that they will have had a lot. Smaller hazelnut bush. Blueberry. Blueberry. And that is Tommy the tomato, which was from our Tomato Tuesday things that we were doing. We decided to put the tomato triplets in with the garden updates. So Tommy the tomato is producing tomatoes, just like he should. Tall things there are Jerusalem artichokes. Those will be dug up this fall and transplanted where we actually want them. They were just put there last fall because we didn't have anywhere else to put them. More hazelnuts. Okay, I want to give you a big view of this. All of that is, or the majority of that is raspberries. Those came from 3 raspberry plants. And there's some raspberries on them. This is a black walnut tree, and as you can see, it is not doing real well. Another volunteer black walnut. Another hazelnut bush. This is an elderberry, a couple of elderberry bushes. So all in all, the food forest is doing really well. I'm very happy with that. All right, this is another of our garden areas. It is doing fairly well. The beans, those are pinto beans. 2 kinds of cucumbers. Black beans. The corn is a corn flour, or for corn flour, not cornmeal, but flour. Never grown that before. It's kind of small. I'm not sure how big it's supposed to get, but it's doing okay at the time. Tomatoes, which should have been trellised. I always do that, but I didn't get to this year. They're growing great. They got tomatoes on them. Peppers, various kinds of peppers, and they don't look very good. Beans back behind them. More pinto beans. Another row of beans, black beans. Another set of tomatoes, or another area of tomatoes that isn't doing too good, doesn't look too good. This bed was left empty so that I can put a second crop of beans and or sweet corn. The corn right there is popcorn, strawberry popcorn. There is some sweet corn at the end of that. You can't see it. I'll give you another view. Maybe you can see it if you're interested. Zucchini. And right on past the zucchini, half and half, is a crook-necked yellow squash, I think it's called. And I'm sorry, that is the sweet corn. And it's yellow looking, which means it doesn't have enough nitrogen. So there's one of our mistakes or near failures. That is the popcorn, the smaller corn. More sweet potatoes. The open areas were corn, and you can see there's a few sunflowers, but there should be a lot more. It was a total disaster in there. Had to rototill it up, get rid of it. Squash. Some extra zucchini that got too large, which now has become chicken food. I'm going to trade those to our chickens for some eggs. Hello, ladies. There is some of the girls that I'll be trading the squash to for the eggs. This is the raised bed garden that I was so looking forward to having up, growing really nice and lots of stuff in it. As you can see, It has lots of stuff in it, but it's not what I put there. Those are what you might call weeds. So this isn't necessarily a failure, it was just a postponement. Certainly not a success, but not a total failure as of yet either. So there is our survival garden update.